So stop for a second as you're starting to tune into this talk and get centered with yourself. Take a few deep breaths. If you are scrolling, going through your to-do list in your mind, if you're busy and you are giving this half of your attention, that's okay. You can continue on doing that in a moment. But for right now, take a second just for yourself and take some deep breaths right into the center of your body and just notice what you're experiencing. Years ago, I was in a really beautiful psycho-spiritual school, and this was one of the practices that we did often. We came back to ourselves because we are practicing coming into the present moment and understanding what is happening in the physical body in the present moment. And as we are spun out with our mental activity and our thoughts and our lists and the multitasking, we lose touch with our bodies, with our experience, and with the present moment. So I'm going to talk about the present moment today because it relates really closely to what's going on astrologically this week, which is Neptune stationing to go direct. We have some other planetary action that's going on as well. But I want to really focus in on the final lessons of this Neptune. It's going to be so important as we move forward into what's coming into 2026 astrologically. I'm Natha Perkins of Astrology, and this, of course, is my Path Ahead weekly astrology forecast. We're talking about the week of December 8th through the 14th. If you're listening on Star Narratives, the podcast, make sure that you follow the show. If you are watching on YouTube, make sure that you like and subscribe. And a reminder that I've just started a Substack, so you can come find me there. There is going to be a slightly different style than I'm offering here through these talks. This is more written, bite-sized things for you to ponder as you're scrolling Substack. And of course, if you would like to become a paid subscriber to Substack, you can join me for periodic office hours where I'll meet you and whoever else is joining us live on Zoom. We can talk about astrology. I can answer your questions. I can do mini chart readings. We will go with the flow. But that is a format that I have missed since I ended my Hidden Wisdom Astrology Circle, which was my private membership that I did for 4 years. And that was a sweet community. We all got to gather together and process a little bit together. So check me out there. I'm going to put the link for the Substack below. And let's start talking about the charts. Now, I'm going to do something different this week. I'm not going to share my screen and share the charts because what I want to do is I want to flow. And I want to talk, first of all, about the fact that Sun on Sunday night, so Sunday night the 7th, the Sun was squaring Pallas Athena. I did some great Pallas Athena talks under my Astrology for Awakening podcast series. There is a playlist in YouTube that has 70 episodes. You can also find them on Star Narratives, but they're easier to find on YouTube. So Pallas Athena is the asteroid that teaches us about strategy. Pallas Athena is a boss. She knows how to get what she wants, but she isn't overt about it. She doesn't come in guns blazing. She comes in with strategy. She assesses the situation and then decides, what do I need to do to get what I want? So when the Sun is squaring Pallas Athena, we all feel this. So think back over the last week at the things that have come up for you. Now, you've heard me talking through this Gemini full moon that we just passed through that was squaring the nodes, how this is a week of the stories that we tell ourselves, the things that we make things mean. And I had some interesting experiences on a personal level about that, which I talked about in my last Substack post. So check that out, because what I'm noticing is that our minds overlay meaning onto everything, and mostly our minds aren't right. So think back, what were the stories that you were telling yourself over this past week, and how did you deal with them? What were your strategies? Because the Sun in a square to Pallas Athena is asking you to redo your strategies. Like, think about this in a different way. It reminds me of when my kids were young and they would come to me with problems. They had a class that they were failing, or they had a friendship that was feeling stressful for them. And I tried to work with them and say, what are the options? What are the 5 things that we could do? Okay, we could find a tutor. You could fail the class. You could drop the class. You could go talk to your teacher and find out whether there's extra credit. We went through the different versions of how to handle the problem. And my hope was always that they went back out into their life and used whatever strategy that felt the best to them, that they would use that. So right now, your higher self is asking you to do the same thing. Look at your strategies, look at your coping mechanisms. Are they working? My guess is that you found a few that were not working because the sun squaring Pallas Athena and that messy full moon with the nodes, like we got shown a lot of stuff that wasn't working very well. But that's good because then we get to problem solve, strategize, and do something different. Now, on the 8th, which is Monday, the moon is going to oppose Pluto. So, the moon being our emotions and the way that we feel and the way that we emotionally react, which always goes hand in hand with the storytelling, right? The story is Gemini, Mercury, mind, and the emotional response to the stories is Cancer, moon, emotions. So, we know those things go together. And when the moon is making an opposition to Pluto, it's pushy. It's a pushy energy that says, yeah, this sucks. What are you going to do about it? Are you just going to feel bad for yourself? Are you just going to hoard your love? Are you going to withhold? Are you going to ice somebody out? So, of course, using our strategies, we say, well, that's not a very good strategy. That doesn't exactly get me more of what I want. That cold shoulder might get me a certain form of attention, but does it feel good? Now, on the 10th, we have this Neptune stationing direct, and it's stationing direct at 29 degrees of Pisces. And the reason that I want to really focus on that this week is because Neptune, of all of the outer planets, which are all, in my opinion, spiritual teachers, Neptune is like the premier spiritual teacher. Neptune is the one that always attempts to bring us back to presence because it is in the present moment that we better understand what we're doing here. And it is in the present moment that we communicate with our higher selves, which really is our North Star. Our higher self is the one that has the answers. And mostly we have a hard time connecting to our higher self because we're back here in our inner child. We are in distraction. We are in emotional reactivity. And of course, this is all part of what we contracted to come down and experience as humans. But when we are quiet, when we are in stillness, that is when we find the connection and we get the downloads and the answers. So, as Neptune is stationing direct for the last time, and Neptune is going to be done with Pisces after this. It'll take a few months to travel and get finally out of Pisces, but this is the last time that Neptune goes direct in Pisces. And so the spiritual lessons are hard and heavy. But as we know, this slogginess, this feeling that everything is on pause, everything is taking forever, nothing is coming to fruition. It's like we're horses and we're trying to get out of the reins and the bridles and we can't. And that's because that Neptunian energy is really trying to get us to get into the stillness and feel what it feels like to be stopped, to be stalled out. You've heard me use this example before, but imagine that you're cruising 70 miles down the highway and you get a flat tire and you're stopped. And there's nothing that you can do. You can't make the car move and you can't make time go any quicker. You're just stopped on the side of the highway waiting for the tow truck to come, waiting for help to arrive. And in the meantime, what are you going to do? Are you going to keep checking your phone? Are you going to complain and moan? Are you going to melt down into a puddle and cry? Ideally, you're going to step away from the car and you're just going to go sit down and you're just going to relax. And you're going to watch how fast all those other cars are going by. You're going to notice how blue the sky is. There's all of these ways to be in the present moment that we bypass because we're so busy doing and moving and thinking and reacting. But there's something about just slowing down and taking a minute. The Neptunian lesson is patience and trust and surrender to the moment. Oh my God, this stuff is going on and there's nothing that I can do to make it any different. So, how about I could go into my old strategies, complaining, resisting, getting angry, melting down, blaming, trying to think and come up with a solution, beating myself up. Okay, we all know we're all there. We all open those doors several times a day. But what Neptune is teaching us is, hey, put all of that aside and just sit and just tolerate it. Just breathe into it. Notice what's happening, because there's this whole world that's always going on that we are unaware of because we're so busy with our coping strategies of trying not to feel. So take a minute and take a deep breath once again. And how does it feel in your body right now as we're talking about this? It's like watching the ocean, and you see the waves, and you see where the water meets the horizon, and you see the foam on the water, and you hear the water, and you smell the water, but then you put on a mask and you look underneath the water, and an entirely new world opens up. That's what the present moment feels like. It's an entirely new world that is here for us, that is actually where we can access the peace and calm that we're trying to find by using all those strategies. So, as Neptune is stationing direct this week, it's a really good week while you're thinking of it to go into stillness and peace, the peace of the present moment, as often as possible. Now, the present moment isn't always blissful and peaceful. It can be boring. It can be uncomfortable. When you really slow down and you realize, wow, like I have a stomach ache, I didn't even notice it before. Or I feel a lot of anxiousness in my solar plexus, and I hadn't really noticed that before. We're not saying the present moment is where you find perfection. We're just saying that the present moment is where you get more information. So you notice, wow, I have some anxiety in my solar plexus. Great. Now you know, now you're aware of it. So you can do some things to help make it different. You can use some strategies. Maybe I need to drink less caffeine tomorrow. Maybe I need to get more exercise. Maybe I need to find a therapist. Like, who knows? But we're looking at getting to know the state, getting the lay of the land. That's what Neptune teaches us to do. What's going on right here? Can you just be with what's going on right here? When you know what's going on right here, you can make different choices. You can propel your way through the present moment in a different way. The idea is that you want to be doing it in a conscious way and not the unconscious ways. And we are trained to be very unconscious. Obviously, take this pill, watch this show, listen to this news, scroll on this device, cross this off your to-do list. You know, all of those things, while some are necessary, they're all distracting. So we learned a lot about what is distracting us, AKA the stories that we make things mean. This is so important. This is the facts. I've got to change this, right? Like that is all a completely different world than coming into the breath, into the consciousness, into the deeper understanding of what's really going on, because we need that deeper understanding to move into 2026. Now, the mind is still going to be very busy. We have the mind, Mercury, which is moving out of Scorpio and moving back into Sagittarius. Remember, it's just coming out of retrograde, and it is going to oppose Uranus. So that's going to happen on the 10th. It's the third opposition of Mercury and Uranus. We had one on the 28th when Uranus was in Gemini and Mercury was in Sagittarius. We had one on the 19th. Mercury was in Scorpio and Uranus was in Taurus. And then we're going to have another one on the 10th. So just think about your mind hitting Uranus and knowing that the way that you see things has to change. The stories that you tell yourself have to change. Uranus is always an energy that pushes you into a bit of a rebellion. It shows you where you have been conforming. And a lot of our belief systems are related to conforming. I believe it because that's what I was taught. I believe it because that's what my textbook said, and textbooks are always right. But as we're moving further and further down the line of history, we're understanding, textbooks aren't always right and facts aren't always fixed. And so this is more encouragement this week to keep challenging the way that you see things, the way that you believe things, and the way that you're doing things, and the way that you're processing information. So on the 11th, Mercury comes into a nice trine with Neptune. So another reminder that The present moment is actually more factual than all of the information and the logistics that are coming through. So we're doing a lot of like mental gymnastics here, but they don't have to be difficult. Really, what they take is that sense of consciousness, because the more conscious you are, the easier it is to just relax into what is without trying to change it and without trying to understand it so perfectly, without trying to dot all the I's and cross all the T's. We're in this flow state right now where we have to just let stuff come in, do what it will, and go out. And hopefully we have the conscious awareness that we can witness it and say, oh, wow, that really activated me. And is that really real? And I don't know. I'm going to have to think about that instead of what we might have done in the past was, wow, that came in and activated me. And now I've cemented it as a fact in my mind and I'm not going to let it go. On the 11th, we have Venus squaring the nodes right as the moon is hitting the south node. So the nodes were so heavily involved in this last full moon that was on December 4th. So as Venus now comes in to be the one squaring the nodes and the moon hits the south node, that means that we're getting some extra information about what we learned last week during the full moon. So all connected to your thoughts, Venus brings in those connections around your values and what's really important and what you want to give your attention and your focus to, and how you want to hold on to your abundance. What do you consider to be abundance? So a lot of times when Mercury gets involved, we consider our thoughts, our ideas, our platforms, our positions to be our abundance. This is what makes me smart. This is what makes me know that I'm right. This is what makes me feel safe and secure. But as we're shifting and we're questioning and we're kind of using our brains in different ways, we have to bring in different kinds of stability. We have to lay our foundation out a little bit differently. So maybe instead of, I'm so smart because I've memorized these facts, it's like, wow, I feel much stronger now because I'm so much more in touch with my own consciousness. So both are forms of strength, both can feel like forms of solidity, but we're changing around, we're changing the landscape of what solidity actually feels like. And we're moving out of, this is what I was told, this is what I believe, this is what I get accolades for, and therefore I'm safe, into I'm learning how to trust myself a little bit more, learning how to be more discerning, and I'm learning how to change my mind. And that makes me feel safe. You see what I'm saying? And finally, on the 13th, this is a short transit, but we have Mars making a quincunx to Uranus. Now, Mars is the warrior within all of us, and Mars talks about courage and bravery. And I think that even though this energy has been so dense and so frustrating, that it is taking a fair amount of courage and bravery for us to get through it, especially if we are not into tuning out and checking out. Of course, in the US, holidays are a time where there is a lot of societal checkout. It's very in vogue. It's very accepted and encouraged to go to holiday parties and drink a lot of alcohol, or to eat a lot of sugar, watch a lot of football, spend a lot of money. All of these things can be real checkout modes. Also, holidays can be very uncomfortable because we have to get together with family. We have to get all the personalities together. We can go back into our old childhood roles. So know that it does take courage and bravery, especially at this time, to be in the present moment and to really feel what's happening, because it's not always pleasant. And especially when we take out some of those coping mechanisms, it can be really raw. It can feel like, how am I going to make it through without being able to eat some sugar, or without drinking, or without zoning out and spending a ton of money? So just know that Uranus in this quincunx, Uranus is always saying, do it differently anyway. Rebel a little bit against how you've always done it, because there are answers and joy and revolution on the other side of your stagnant behaviors. All right, well, I hope this was helpful, and I shall see you all next week. Thank you for joining me. If you would like to see more of my work, book a private reading, or become a student, you can visit me at electraastrology.com.